Picture yourself sitting in a room where the air feels heavy with words that have never been spoken. You are sitting in a chair that is comfortable, yet you feel an inexplicable urge to move, as if your body is trying to flee from the truth your mind is about to reveal. The lighting is soft, designed to dissolve the sharp edges of the world outside, but it only seems to sharpen the focus on the person sitting across from you. This person does not look like a judge, and yet their eyes seem to hold the scales of your entire history. They do not look like a priest, and yet they are ready to receive your darkest confessions without a flinch. This is the office of the psychiatrist. Notice the silence. In most parts of life, silence is a mistake. It is an awkward gap to be filled with small talk laughter or the artificial glow of a smartphone. But here, silence is a tool. It is a mirror. The psychiatrist leans back not out of boredom, but to create a vast, empty space for your ghost to enter the room. You watch the clock on the wall. Its rhythmic ticking is the only pulse in a space where time seems to have folded in on itself. You begin to wonder what is happening behind those eyes. Is this person truly feeling your pain? Or are they merely cataloging your symptoms like a botanist labeling a rare, dying flower? To understand the psychology of the psychiatrist is to understand the ultimate paradox of human connection. It is the art of being deeply viscerally present while remaining entirely unreachable. It is the science of loving the human soul without ever being allowed to own a piece of it. We often think of the patient as the one under the microscope, but the mind of the healer is a landscape of even greater complexity. It is a fortress built of empathy and reinforced with the cold steel of clinical detachment. Before we dive into the mind of the psychiatrist, subscribe to the channel so you don't miss our upcoming analyses. We are exploring the hidden architectures of the human experience, and your presence here helps us build this map together. The psychiatrist lives in a state of perpetual shadow work. They spend 40 hours a week staring into the abyss, waiting for the abyss to blink first. This is not merely a career. It is a voluntary descent into the underworld of the human psyche. Imagine the mental discipline required to hold the trauma of 50 different people within your own mind, and still find the strength to go home and eat dinner with your family. Why would a person choose to carry the weight of 1,000 tragedies that do not belong to them? Why would someone train their mind to become a vessel for the psychic waste of others? To answer this, we must look beyond the medical degree and the leather chair. We must look at the primal drive to bring order to chaos. We must look at the soul's fundamental need to be seen, and the terrifying responsibility of being the one who does the seeing. This is a journey into the heart of human survival. Because without the psychiatrist, the fractured mind remains a collection of broken glass. With them, it has the chance to become a mosaic. The stakes are nothing less than the preservation of the self in a world that constantly threatens to tear it apart. This is the archaeology of the soul, and the shovel is the mind of the healer. To understand the psychiatrist, we must understand why some humans are born with the strange, beautiful, and dangerous desire to map the darkness in others. To survive in the presence of someone else's madness, one must possess a very specific architecture of the soul. The psychiatrist is not merely a medical professional. They are a psychological athlete, trained to endure pressures that would shatter a less disciplined mind. This begins with a trait psychologists call emotional stability, or low neuroticism. In the heat of a patient's crisis, when the room is vibrating with the energy of a panic attack or the sharp edges of a manic episode, the psychiatrist's brain must remain an island of stillness. This is not a lack of feeling, but a highly developed form of neurological regulation. Inside the prefrontal cortex, the area of the brain responsible for logic and impulse control, there is a constant silent battle against the mirror neurons. These are the cells that make us yawn when we see someone else yawn, or feel pain when we see someone else bleed. For the psychiatrist, these neurons are firing rapidly, trying to pull their mood into alignment with the patient's suffering. This is called affective empathy, the visceral feeling of another's pain. But to be effective, the psychiatrist must pivot to cognitive empathy. They must understand the pain without drowning in it. They must keep their own amygdala, the brain's alarm system, from screaming in response to the patient's fear. This is the neuroscience of the poker face. It is a biological wall built to protect both the healer and the healed, ensuring that the doctor remains a lighthouse rather than a fellow shipwrecked sailor. Consider the story of Dr. Elias, a veteran of the high-security psychiatric wards. He once sat with a patient named Marcus, a man whose life had been a series of violent outbursts and profound isolations. Marcus spent their first 6 sessions screaming or throwing furniture. Most people would react with fear, anger, or a desire to restrain him. Elias did neither. He sat in his chair, his posture relaxed, his breathing slow and rhythmic. He was practicing what Carl Rogers called unconditional positive regard, but with a stoic twist. He understood that Marcus was not attacking him, but was instead attacking the ghosts that Elias represented. By remaining unmoved, Elias showed Marcus that his internal chaos was not powerful enough to destroy the world outside. This ability to endure the unbearable weight of another person's reality requires a trait known as high openness to experience. The psychiatrist must be willing to entertain thoughts that most people would find repulsive or terrifying. They must be able to walk into the darkest rooms of the human house and sit on the floor without judging the dust. This is where we see the evolutionary root of the profession. Long before there were white coats, there were the shamans, the medicine men, and the village elders. In our ancestral past, the tribe needed a member who could bridge the gap between the known and the unknown. When a member of the tribe became haunted by visions or paralyzed by grief, the shaman was the one who went into the spirit world to bring them back. This served a primitive function of social cohesion. A broken mind was a threat to the survival of the entire group because it created a point of failure in the collective defense. By healing the individual, the shaman protected the tribe. The modern psychiatrist is the direct descendant of that original watcher. They are the ones who stay awake at the edge of the campfire, looking out into the dark so the rest of the tribe can sleep in peace. This requires a unique set of characteristics that we also see in the high-stakes investigator, or the bomb technician. Like a detective, the psychiatrist must look at the clues of a person's behavior to find the hidden motive, the trauma buried under layers of defense. Like a bomb technician, they must move with extreme precision. One wrong word, one poorly timed question, can cause a patient's psyche to detonate or withdraw into a shell for years. Both roles require a profound suppression of the ego. To save the person in front of you, you must first become a mirror. You must become a blank screen, upon which the patient can project their demons, their fathers, their failures, and their hopes. This is what Sigmund Freud called transference, and the psychiatrist's ability to handle it, to be hated and loved for things they did not do, is the ultimate test of their character. This is the archaeology of the mind. It is the slow, methodical process of brushing away the dirt of daily life to find the ancient, buried structures of the self. It is a work of patience that defies the modern urge for a quick fix. The psychiatrist understands that the mind did not break in a day, and it will not be mended in an hour. They operate on a different timeline, one that stretches back into the history of the species and forward into the potential of the soul. They carry the wounded healer archetype, a concept explored by Carl Jung, which suggests that only a doctor who has recognized their own darkness can truly guide another through theirs. They do not look down upon the patient from a height of perfection. They reach out from a place of shared humanity, acknowledging that the distance between sanity and madness is often just a single tragic event. This is the prestige of the profession, the courage to look at the human condition exactly as it is, in all its broken, messy glory, and still believe in the possibility of order. They are the cartographers of the interior world, mapping the territories of despair so that others might find their way home. Every note they write, every prescription they sign, is a small act of rebellion against the entropy of the soul. They are the keepers of the human narrative, ensuring that even when a mind loses its way, the story does not have to end in the dark. There is a moment in the middle of a deep session where the world outside the office walls ceases to exist. The psychiatrist enters what we call the flow state, a concept described by psychologist Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi as the perfect balance between the challenge of a task and the skill of the person performing it. In this state, the psychiatrist is no longer just a doctor sitting in a chair. They are a navigator moving through a storm. The challenge is the immense complexity of another human's defense mechanisms, the lies they tell themselves, the trauma they have buried, and the symptoms that mask their true pain. The skill is the years of training and the refined intuition that allows the doctor to hear the music beneath the words. When these two forces meet, time disappears. A 50-minute hour can feel like a heartbeat, or it can feel like a century. This is the dance of the clinical encounter. The psychiatrist's brain is functioning at a level of high-intensity focus that mimics the state of a chess grandmaster or a deep-sea diver. Every twitch of the patient's eye, every change in the cadence of their breath, is data. This data is processed through a filter of decades of research, from the biological underpinnings of neurotransmitters to the philosophical questions of human existence. This is not a passive activity. It is an active, exhausting immersion. Yet, it provides a unique form of biological satisfaction. Our brains are wired to find pleasure in solving complex puzzles, especially those that involve social connection and the survival of our peers. For the psychiatrist, the win is not a trophy or a score. It is the moment a patient makes a connection they have never seen before. It is the moment the heavy air in the room begins to clear. This is the hard path. In a world that demands instant gratification and 5-minute fixes, the psychiatrist's brain rejects the shallow route. They reject the idea that a human soul can be summarized by a single diagnosis or a simple checklist. This rejection is based on the concept of justified effort. The human brain values things more when they are difficult to achieve. If healing were easy, it would not be profound. The psychiatrist knows that the quick fix, the mask that hides the symptoms without touching the cause, is a form of biological dishonesty. They choose the path of most resistance because it is the only path that leads to a genuine transformation. They endure the frustration, the slow progress, and the frequent setbacks because they understand that the most beautiful structures are built on the deepest foundations. This is why their brain finds satisfaction in the struggle. It is the satisfaction of the artisan, who spends a lifetime mastering a single impossible craft. From this intense life of the mind, we can all learn a vital lesson. We are all, in a sense, the psychiatrists of our own lives. We all carry internal shadows, fractured narratives, and moments of chaos that we try to ignore. The lesson of the healer is that we must stop running from our own silence. We must learn to sit in the chair across from our own ghosts and listen to what they have to say. We must value the hard path of self-understanding over the easy path of distraction. The psychology of the psychiatrist teaches us that truth is not something to be feared, but a territory to be explored. It reminds us that empathy is a muscle that must be trained, and that being truly present for another human being or for ourselves is the highest form of prestige. When we choose to look deeply into the mess of the human experience, we are not just surviving, we are honoring the complexity of what it means to be alive. We are moving from the chaos of the fractured self into the order of a life lived with intention. If this analysis made you see the psychiatrist in a different light, leave a like. Comment below what you most admire or fear about the mind of a psychiatrist. And tell us, which analysis do you want to see next?